Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Hey Youth Summit 2024. My name is Zahra, and I'm going to be the master of ceremony for tonight's session. In this session, we are delightful that we will be hearing a presentation from our extraordinary guest speaker, Mr. Rifki ZamZam from Qatar, a co-founder of Qatar HR Forum who has 24 years of experience in organizational development. Mr. Rifki Zamzam will be presenting the topic of the leadership advantage, driving employee satisfaction and high performance through purposeful development, which aligns with the topic number 4 of Sustainable Development Goals, quality education, and also number 8, decent work and economic growth. To Mr. Rifki Zamzam, the floor is yours. Hello, Mr. Rifki, are you there? Please wait while we're waiting for Mr. Rifki. Maybe there's a technical issue. All right, while we are waiting for Mr. Rifki, the operator can share the jazz music, but still keeping this screen of Mr. Rifki's presentation. wait for the operator
I
because
think,
Mr. Rifki is here. Hello, Mr. Rifki.
yeah, hi, how are you?
I'm good today. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm sorry about the confusion on the links because when I logged into this, I was taken to another invite.
Oh, I'm sorry for that issue. I've already introduced you to our participants. Do you want to proceed to your presentation, or I should introduce you again?
Can you say that again?
Do you want to proceed to your presentation?
Yes, yes.
All right. Mr. Rifki, the floor is yours.
You can see. Yeah. Hello, everyone. I hope everyone can see the presentation. I'm here, on a volunteer basis, representing the Qatar HR Forum for Hey Youth Indonesia, and the subject of this would be leadership advantage, so driving employee satisfaction and high performance through purposeful development. And this is done for Hey Youth Indonesia, and I'm truly honored to be here. Next slide, please. Can everyone hear me?
Yes,
Can you put us in our comments? Thank you. So
you're
this is a brief about me. I'm sure you would have explained the background that I have. So it's 23 years in organization development and change management and leadership development across multiple industries. And I have a master's, including different diplomas in management and HR and capability, including ISO 9990 audit. And the latest was I was part of the L&D team. I was basically the head of learning and development for FIFA World Cup Qatar tournament bus services. So that was 2 years ago. A bit about the Qatar HR Forum. So this is a volunteer-led organization established in 2012, and I'm the co-founder with another colleague. So the purpose of the HR Forum is to uplift the HR standards across the organizations in Qatar. And this is done on a purely volunteer basis, same like Hey Youth. So our interests are aligned. All right, so now going on to the main slide. And in case I'm going too fast, please let me know. So to start with, leadership is a very interesting topic. So to understand the link between leadership and performance is very, very essential. Next slide, please. So to start with the definition, so leadership is essentially it's a mindset of behaviors that aligns people in a collective direction. So what this means is what first part means is that the leaders are not to assume themselves as somebody who would give orders to someone. They don't manage the people; they basically lead the people. That's what this first part is about. So that leading involves coaching. It involves creating a culture. It involves working together as a team and not just um, managing and supervising getting things done. So as a leader, you have a sole responsibility to make sure that you encourage your team, you identify whatever help they need, whatever gaps they need, and have a strong sense of communication. Your biggest leadership ability will shine when you're under pressure. One of the key things a leader has to change is to change to environments to adapt when the situation gets difficult. It doesn't mean that the leader has to know everything, but it means that the leader has to employ a group of people who have those capabilities. So the source of this is from McKinsey. There's a QR code there. You can always, read to that link. I think the slide deck will be available later on, but you can look at the QR code later on. I mean, it's just there for your information. But I think let's move on to the next slide because there's a lot of the content that is here. Next slide, please.
All right, I'm sorry, Mr. Rifki. Please wait
Not a
for.
problem. That's okay.
Oh, all right, is the operator ready for the next slide?
Yes. All right. So perfect. Thank you very much. So what you see over here is this is called the Tenenbaum and Schmidt leadership model. So what this essentially says is the degree of control leaders would have on their teams, it changes with maturity. So you would see on one corner where the use of authority by the manager, and on the other corner you will see area of freedom for subordinates. So you will have a subordinate-centered leadership, a business-centered leadership. You would have heard that there are multiple types of leadership styles: autocratic, democratic, laissez-faire. You don't stick to one style. The dynamics are quite different. So you have to transition between those sides, between those styles. So as a manager, when you start hiring a new team or when you're working with a new team, it is important for you to set the expectations and help the team to mature with you. So the more maturity the team becomes, the more freedom you would get. So there are transitions that you have to build a framework, allowing the team to understand your style of the leader style of working. So in this case, if it is you, and ensure that the team is comfortable with successes and failures. So that's key. The team will never learn through doing everything right. Leadership is always learned from the number of failures that you have and how controlled those failures are. I mean, you have to plan first, but you can't simply, nosedive into a disaster. So it's important that you have a team that does the work with your direction. You grow their maturity as you move along, and as you grow, you have to make sure that you give them the freedom to operate. Part of being a leader is that the compliments go to the team, the complaints or the responsibility when anything goes wrong falls on the leader. So it's important that aspiring leaders understand that just because you're the leader, it doesn't mean that you take on all the compliments and all the credit for the work done with your team. You're appointed as a leader because you work that way. You got the compliments when you were in a lower position and you worked your way to the top. So that is very, very important. So that's what the leadership continuum defines. That's what it is. So if you are implementing this, make sure that you build a scale up model, a path for the team to grow so that they can become leaders. It's also important that the leaders don't forget that they are responsible for their teams. They have to serve the team. They have to make sure that the team grows with them. Leaders who have successfully developed their teams are the ones who are very, very, very productive. They make sure that the team is capable of running the department or running the company during their absence within an aligned framework. So that's what this model means. A few things that come out are the benefits of this is employee engagement and satisfaction. That is when leaders coach their team, work with them, share the responsibility, share the objectives, and tell the employees where they are in the strategy. That creates an engagement. That creates a satisfaction between the employees. The employees know what they're supposed to do. Their roles are defined. They have objectives to achieve, and because of the coaching by the leader, they are assured that all the areas are covered. The success is there. They are groomed right throughout. In terms of productivity, the leader has to not interfere, but has to work along with them, keeping tabs, making sure that the objectives are achieved, and not wait until an appraisal period for them to measure, but move alongside, check with them, what's happening, where are we on this? That is key. That's where the productivity part comes in, making sure that things are aligned. There's one thing that you have to be careful in this is you have to listen to your team when you're a leader. Make sure that the ideas, the thoughts is debated. There has to be a healthy debate so that you know what's happening. And so that the best ideas come forward. One of the responsibilities of being a leader is to weigh the pros and cons of every idea. Although as a leader, you do have the right to overrule. That's a risk that you take. And that helps the employees become productive. So when an employee does give an idea, as a leader, you have to be very, very careful as to how you prioritize those ideas and how you inform the employees that some ideas can take effect now, some ideas can take effect later, and not to decline an idea. So in case you have an employee who has given an idea which doesn't make sense or doesn't suit the moment, sit with them, coach them into how an idea can develop into something more suitable to that situation or to that culture. That's very, very important. Never shoot down an employee just because their idea doesn't match. The other one is management by objective. So when you start, it's important that you read the strategy and you derive the objective that has to be achieved from the strategy. So a typical strategy is about 3 years to 5 years. Make sure that you derive the objectives from that and set those objectives in the SMART format, that is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time bound, and explain to the employees what these objectives are and when to achieve them, how to achieve them, what is expected in terms of performance. Sometimes there may not be a result, but then you have to observe the effort that they made. So that is absolutely essential. So being a leader requires a lot of commitment. It requires a lot of dedication, and you have to be humble. You have to avoid this thinking where you're a leader, which means you're a manager, you head things. The higher you go, the more responsibility you have towards training your team, coaching your team, making sure that the results are achieved through them. So that is key. I hope you're organizing yourselves with the questions which you can ask at the end of the session, or you can drop it in the chat box, or I think the administrator from HeyU will be able to manage the questions towards the end. Shall we move on to the next slide? Ibu Nada, could you tell me if I'm moving too fast, or am I being heard clearly?
No, all good.
Okay. All right. So we have a question over here. So you can drop in your comments. You can drop in your answers at the end. So what are the types of behaviors that account to around 89% of leadership effectiveness? There's no wrong answer. I just want to see as to what you think about leadership. Any response? All right, let's click the presentation because there are 4 boxes which appear in animation. Trust is one. Discipline, yes. Reliability, you're right. Yes, you have to communicate. That is absolutely correct. All right, so let's reveal the four types of behaviors. Ibu Nada, can you click the transition? Yes. Being supportive, results orientation, seeking different perspectives, solving problems effectively. So the answers you gave actually fall within this. So this is also identified from the research done by, I think, McKenzie. I think if you click one more time, you will see the source over there. So it's important for the leader to be supportive, which means the communication has to be good, which means the leader has to be reliable. Whenever your team wants to reach out, you have to make yourself available. Seeking different perspectives, like what I discussed earlier, the ideas are important. You have to train your team, you have to coach them, you have to make sure that they fit in, or they somehow adjust, help them change into a new culture, into a new environment. The leader has to lead the change, and the leader also has to solve the problems and also teach the team how to solve problems, because you can't be busy solving problems all the time. You can't be busy firefighting. So the more you train your team, the more time you have to think, the more time you have to come up with creative ideas on how to lead the team. When a leader has achieved, his ultimate goal is when the entire team can think like the leader. That's your responsibility as a leader. Next slide. All right. So there was one section in the syllabus I got from Hey Youth administration, that was how to design a leadership program. So all of you must be familiar with the ADDIE model. So this one is called the impact model, and this can be used as an alternative to ADDIE. The essentials are identify and analyze the competency gaps in leadership. Not all leaders are perfect. There are a lot of things that even experienced leaders have to learn. They have to evolve. So a source of information for leadership development is to identifying is a 360 based survey, a 360 assessment, where a leader's superiors are assessed, are given an evaluation about the leader's peers, and the leader's subordinates. This reveals information about culture. This reveals information about the leadership style. This reveals how the results are achieved. So this is vital information. And then any issues that arise as to how the approach is taken. Sometimes a decision made by a leader can have good results and can have some consequences as well. There is never a perfect situation where everything is all nice and smooth and you don't get any issues at all. Part of being a leader is your ability to manage situations. Some leaders always choose the least path of resistance. They do a critical path analysis. So that thinking matters. The least amount of damage, the least amount of negative impact is the way forward. The second one is, once you identify those gaps from the 360 and the issue-based, is map the training design. Always have an objective. So in coaching, what we say is we make sure that that there is an objective which the person has to move on to. And then the outcomes, what is expected, and a periodic assessment, because you need to take a situation analysis. That's what assessments do, as to where the leaders are in terms of responding to certain situations. That's where psychometrics come in. You have cognitive skills that give an evaluation of, or an adjudication of, what the leaders' thinking patterns are, knowledge skills are. That is very, very important. The competency levels of a leader is key, because you have a lot of leadership models, a lot of role models, and there is a lot of mentoring that a leader would need from a professional coach, that would teach them adjust to situations. Remember, leaders have to face the music when something goes wrong. So the ability to face situations, the ability to take responsibility when something goes wrong, is also a skill. The next one is produce learning tools. That is the program, the material for the delivery. This can be a leadership, a 2-day leadership program or a 1-day leadership program. This can be a coaching, or it can be a mentoring. So you have the difference of coaching and mentoring over there. Coaching will have an objective. It will have a plan, say 6 months to maybe a year, maybe 2 years. Mentoring will be somebody with a lot of experience who would give guidance. Let's say if there is someone who is taking up the role of the CEO and the current CEO is retiring, the current CEO will be a mentor to the new interim CEO who's taking on the role as to how to do things, how to manage things. The other one is leadership competency development, which has to be defined. So the leadership competency changes from organization to organization. Strategy, visionary thinking, creative thinking are some of the essential skills that you need. Now, to see that the plan actually works, you need to go back to the objectives, like you see under where it says map the training design, the second box, where you find the objectives and the assessments. You need to build the assessments based on the objectives at that stage before you prepare a coaching model or you prepare a mentoring or a training program on leadership. That's key. Because when it comes to calculating measurable results, the reaction, the learning, the behavior, and the results that you get is something that you achieve, that you evaluate to see how well the person has performed, the leader has performed, or the quality of the material that has been delivered on a 2-day, 3-day program, or how effective was the coaching, or how effective was the mentoring. So it has to be measured. What gets measured gets monitored, and what gets monitored improves. That is essential. You can't have a program or a coaching program without the milestones. You need to have those achievements. You need to work towards those achievements. So that is essential in preparing a leadership development program. Track and follow through. Some of this could be, projects, or you assign some people to be mentored by the leader, and you need to have guidance. One of the things that some leaders struggle is, once they are trained, once they are coached and mentored, they are fantastic in taking the company forward. But then it's important for them to create a legacy, which means the succession planning, the career progression of those who are reporting to that leader has to be taken care of by that leader himself or herself. That is key, because it's a continued process. The behavior is very important. The humility is important. Once you achieve a certain level, you can't discount that. Oh, I'm leader. I'm the general manager. People go by titles. Leadership is actually not tied down to a title. It's one person's ability to influence the rest of the team, to achieve a certain target. That's what leadership essentially is, and how to manage situations. The quality of the decisions, the impact on the team is what we are talking about over here. I hope you have some questions on this area. I'll be happy to explain in the Q&A session. Shall we move to the next slide? So design and build of leaders. So this is a model which I developed somewhere around 2012, 2013. So what this model explains is, when you develop leaders, you need to start as early, or as early as 5 years down, 5 years earlier or 10 years earlier, because leaders need to know everything at an operational level. So you start at an operational level, you'll find, let's say, an engineer, or you'll find a sales executive, or an admin assistant, or a secretary, who ends up doing all the mundane, all the boring work, like typing documents, compiling documents, filing. That is essential. Those build competencies, those build experience. Then that also allows people to grow, because the more competencies and expertise they develop on these mundane tasks, on these routine tasks, gets them to be more productive, trying to find a way of how effective they can be. That's why you need to keep an eye on all the young talent who are at the operational level, who do tactical things, because you will find some really creative people at that level. As you can see a triangle, an angle, something like triangle, an oddly shaped triangle, um, which is in blue, which is towards under the leadership bracket, and I will explain why it's that. So as they become middle management, you would see that the technical competency, the green quadrant is slightly smaller than the one on the operational level. The human relations grow, and so does the leadership when they go to middle management. This is because when you move from one career or one level to another level, you move ahead with the competencies, you move ahead with the experience. And it's important for HR to develop a leadership development program that allows people to discontinue certain things, like once you become a senior or a team leader, you don't continue doing the operational things like before. You have to teach the operational things to the new staff that comes in, work with them to find a better way, and supervise and manage the objective, manage the expectations. That is essential so that people grow as leaders. You will have, see, the thing is, one of the drawbacks of certain programs in organizations is that the moment they find a top performer, they just promote the person without training them to the next level. So what happens is, people think that, okay, this is what got me the promotion, I will continue to do this later on. That becomes a very ineffective leadership style. It becomes unproductive because people grow, but they don't let go of their habits. There are certain things you have to unlearn when you become a leader. And as you go into the senior management, as you become directors, you become COOs, CEOs, chairman of the board, your ability to lead grows. That's why the triangle, gets smaller at the top. So you focus more on leading, you focus more on decision making, you focus more on the human relations, and you don't get involved in technical things, but you use that level of competency that you have to evaluate the impact of your decisions. That's why it's important to groom leaders right from the get-go. So you will find a dotted arrow which points upwards. So your leadership development starts from the people at the very bottom. And there are a lot of organizations that have very successful leadership development programs. People who come in at the lowest levels have ended up as the chief executive officer in large companies, in a certain period of time. So this is key. As you move along into the next level, you adapt more leadership qualities, you adapt more human relations, you adapt more strategic thinking. The competencies don't get used in operations, but it gets used to read the future, used to read the competencies. So, okay, so apparently I have reached the time limit, so I will try to rush through the rest. The next slide, and I'm so sorry if I am speaking a lot faster than before. So fostering collaborative team environments. Let's go to the next slide. And I do have 5 minutes left. I'm so sorry. Yes, let's. So the Tuckman's model, 4 stages of development. Can we click this one so that we reveal all the 4 boxes? It's animated, so if you click 4 times, it will show. One more. Okay, I think it was clicked too fast. Okay, here you go. So leaders, you need to do 2 things. One is to form a team, and the other one is to make sure that you develop the team. So always remember that how you handle differences of opinions between you and your team and between different team members, that is part of the game. People will always have a difference of opinion. There's always going to be conflict. So how you manage that conflict matters. Norming is where you standardize, you pull people together, and this is the most crucial part. You are responsible to make sure that people work together, and you have that ability to do so. And performing is basic, the final one. And there is another one called a journey, that is debriefing, taking notes to improve. Next slide. leadership skills for the modern workplace. Yes, we can move on to the next one. So you would have heard of the VUCA concept. So VUCA is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Leaders are refined by their ability to adjust to situations. So there are four quadrants over here. It's animated. If you can click 4 times, there you are. So the answers that you gave earlier, this is why it comes in. In any situation which is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, leaders have to be direct. You can't sugarcoat things. You have to say as it is. This brings in trust with the team. This brings in clarity. It makes the communication smooth, and you have to be understandable in ambiguous situations. Getting ideas clears things, giving them direction, prioritizing, and telling them, okay, here's what we're going to do. This is why we're doing it. That gives confidence to the team. Okay, that there is a rationale behind it. Be reliable. That is absolutely essential. I think somebody said that. Pak Hendro, thank you very much. Terima kasih for the reminder. I will try to close it as soon as possible. And be trustworthy. As a leader, you can't afford to lose trust. You're only a leader as long as you have followers. If your team doesn't trust you, there's no point in you being a leader. So you have to be genuine. There's nothing wrong in accepting your mistakes in front of your team. So it's important that you set that culture. Otherwise, if your team does not tell you that, okay, here's where you fall short, or here's what you're good at, or here's not what you're good at, if they don't tell you that, which means they've lost communication, they've lost trust with you. Make sure you maintain that last quadrant. That's very, very important. Next slide. Measuring impact. Yes, here you are. To the audience that is here, extremely essential. Have your vision, have your values communicated very, very clearly right from the get-go. Your team processes are important, how each person operates, if they're operating remotely, if they're operating within a certain premises. So this is something we implemented during the FIFA World Cup Qatar when we started in 2020. All the way to 2020, we made sure that the entire team knows the vision, values, how to communicate, how to manage. Because my team at that time was 121 people. I was heading 121 trainers through the entire tournament bus services department of FIFA World Cup. Make sure there are goals for them to achieve. Make sure those goals are celebrated. Communicate and coordinate continuously. As a leader, you have to be on top of things as much as you can. Have regular meetings. That communication is important. Have authority and accountability. So as a leader, you have to transition between an authoritarian style to a laissez-faire style to a more democratic style. You have to keep transitioning based on the situation. Resources are important. Make sure that your team has the resources to operate, and they also use those resources efficiently as possible. Yeah. Next slide. Thank you very much. So there are QR codes. One is to my LinkedIn and other one is to my YouTube. Feel free to log in. I have some videos on YouTube, around 4 videos that is designed to build confidence, and my LinkedIn has some worthwhile reading material, and I'll be happy to connect online. Now is the time for Q&A.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Rifki, for the insightful and comprehensive presentation. I believe that many of our participants want to ask questions, but unfortunately, the time's limited. So, for those of you who want to ask questions, you can raise your hand or write the question on the chat box.
And
All
my
right,
apologies again for the technical issue we had at the beginning.
it's all right. We apologize too. All right, I see one person who raises their hand. Kiki, let's go with your question.
So, hello, Mr. Rifki. My name is Kit,
Hi.
and for me, it's a very interesting when you're talking about leader because I'm a student and one of my subject in my college is leadership class. So, what we learn is about Maslow hierarchy of needs and how empathy is related to leadership styles, and some of topic that you given is same with my lecture says to me. So actually, I have a lot of questions, but I know we have limited time, so I make it to two questions. So my first question is, in your opinion, what is the difference between leaders and leadership? And the second question is, what do you think is the best power that should be a leader have? Is it legitimate power, coercive power, reward power, expert power, or different power? Thank you.
Okay, so your first question, the difference is the difference between leadership and managers, is it?
Leader and leadership.
Well, both of them are more or less the same thing. A leader is, a situation that puts you in where you are able to provide direction, where you are able to provide solutions, where you are able to influence and take the team forward. That's what a leader does, and leadership is the process of doing it. So how you do it, that's where leadership comes in. It's a derivative of the same word. But what I can tell you is, a manager manages, where a leader steps in, works with the team to take things forward. Did I clarify that question to you?
Yeah. So same with my
And the next one?
exercise. And then the second one is, what do you think is the best power that should be leader have? Is it legitimate power, coercive power, reward power, expert power, or different power?
I wouldn't define it as power, but I would say it as characteristics. Expertise is very important. People look at a leader to find answers, to get solutions. Coerciveness is very important because a leader should be able to gather his team, to rally the troops, and take them forward, through difficult situations. I couldn't hear the other two very clearly. The ability to influence is very, very important. Solutions is important. Solving problems are important to the team. So at the beginning, you can solve problems for your team, but it's important for you to teach them how to solve those problems and how those problems are solved. That's essential as a leader.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rifki.
Feel free to type the questions on my LinkedIn DMs. I'll be happy to answer later on.
All right. Thank you so much, Kiki, for the question. And also, thank you, Ms. Rifki, for the answer. Unfortunately, we've reached the end of this session. Before ending this session, we will be taking a picture together. For the operator, please share the certificate on the screen.
Thank you so much, Kiki. Thank you very much. I'm truly honored to be part of Hey Youth.
We are honored to have you as our guest speaker. All right. I will be counting down from 3. Wait. Okay. 1, 2. Okay, again. 1, 2. All right. That concludes our session with Mr. Rifki. Once again, thank you so much, Mr. Rifki ZamZam, for taking your time to share your wonderful knowledge with us. I hope what you share will be useful for us, and I hope you're healthy. I hope you're healthy and we can meet again soon. Thank you.
Ya, terima kasih ya.
Terima kasih, sama-sama.
Sama-sama.
Thank you so much,
Ya.
Mr. Rifki.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.